Hey guys, this is René and today I'm back with another programming tutorial for the MetaTrader 5. You probably know this feeling. You're scrolling through the mql5 market and you find an indicator that you want to use as an entry signal, for example, or as a trailing stop. And specifically in this video, we will have a look at the whole moving average indicator. So then you head over to your MetaTrader 5 and you first of all have to install this indicator, which is really easy. Just click on your indicators or just right click in the navigator and go to buy from the market, and then you can type in whatever name this program has. For example, you go for whole moving average or just whole, and then you find the indicator and you can download it. I did this already, but you can do it here. And in this video, I will teach you how you can use any indicator from the MetaTrader 5 market, or just any indicator in general. It can also be from a forum, for example, or somewhere else. And you can use this indicator then as a trailing stop for your positions. Also, we will learn how to close all positions immediately if the whole moving average changes its color. Also, if you're interested in learning how to use any chart indicator not as a trailing stop but to open positions on the indicator signals, I already made a video for this and you can find it here or probably here. I will link it in this video. But today, let's have a look at how to use this whole moving average, or as I said, any indicator as a trailing stop for your positions. So what do we want to do? We want to write a program. So first of all, in the MetaTrader 5, go to Tools and then MetaQuotes Language Editor. This will open the editor, and the editor can be used to write pretty much text files in the first place and then compile them with a built-in compiler, so the text file will become a working program for the MetaTrader 5. So in the upper left corner, you should find this new button. If we click it, we can use all of these options here, and we will go with Expert Advisor template. Then we click on Next, and here we can then enter a name for our program, and I will go with any indicator trailing stop. And then I will just go next, next, and finish. And here we go with a brand new Expert Advisor. We have some of these comments which are gray in the default template of Expert Advisor, and some of these properties. All of these lines do not really have an impact on the program, so I will quickly delete them. You can do so if you wish. You can also keep them. As I said, it will not have an impact on the actual functionality. Then personally, as always, I like to rearrange my brackets here like this. You can also do so if you like this style, but it doesn't really matter. You can also keep the default placement of the curly brackets. So now we have three functions left: the onInit, the onDinit, and the onTick. They are so-called event handling functions. So when we activate the program on the chart, and we can do so, because here now, as I said, we have a text file, but you can click on this compile button here on the status bar of the meta editor, and it will take the text file and compile it to an executable file. And since we're doing this in the meta editor, we can go back to our MetaTrader, and we should find this Expert Advisor already in our navigator. If we go to Expert Advisors in the navigator, and then you should find the program that you just created. For me, it is, where is it? Any indicator trailing stop, of course. You can just drag and drop it on a chart, and if you click on OK, it is now active in the upper right corner of the chart, and it will process chart events for this chart, since we have these three functions here. So when there is a initialization event in this specific chart, everything in this function will be executed. For a deinitialization, this function will be executed, and for an onTick function, this will be executed. What does this mean? Let's have a look at this first with the onInit. And here, before we have a look at the actual code that we want to place in this onInit function here, we will create a new variable. And this will be a global variable of type integer, and we call this handle. What does this mean? It's just these three things, like int is the data type, and it means there can be any or any number without the decimal point can be stored in this handle variable, pretty much. Handle is just the name. This could be different. This could also be dog or cat or Peter or Mary. It's just a name. And it makes sense to use a name that describes the value stored inside of this variable. And then there's a semicolon to end the line. So now we have an integer variable. And at this point, when the program executes this line, it will reserve some space in the memory of your PC for a specific value that is an integer value. So let's now go to the onInit and let's put something into this variable. And we can address the variable by using the name. This can be, again, handle, Peter, Mary, dog, or whatever you choose. And then we can put a value inside of this handle, for example, 2. And if we now print this value using the print function, which is predefined in the mql5 framework, so we can use it right away, just write print with a capital letter, and then in round brackets, we type the value that we want to print, and we end all the statements always with a semicolon. So if we compile this and go back to our program, we can now see, since it is still running in the chart, if we switch to the experts tab, you can see it's printing 2. And I think this is really great because now we can store different values in the handle variable. And you can see it's always printing the value. So the value is indeed stored in this variable. Of course, we don't want to store just any value, but we want to return the we want to use the chart indicator get function. And this is a little bit more complex than the print function, of course, but I will explain everything and break it down so it's really easy to you. So the chart indicator get function, it does exactly what the name says. It will get any indicator from the current chart or the chart that you specify, for example, this chart, and it will get, or it will select, so to say, this indicator and store the information about this indicator. So as you can see, when we call this function by its name, this is how we do in programming, we just call a function by its name, and then we open round brackets after the name to add some parameters. So the function that we called knows exactly what we want it to do, right? So as I said, we can get the indicator from any chart. So first of all, we will have to specify what chart we want to get the indicator from. And in this case, we will go with 0. Because 0 means always the chart where the EA is attached to. In this case, of course, this chart. Then the second one is the sub window. There could be a sub window, and this could be important if you, for example, have an indicator that is running in a sub window. For example, you might have a RSI indicator, relative strength. This one would be running in sub window 1 because it's the first sub window, right? But in this case, we are just using the main window. So the sub window is 0 again. And then there's the indicator name requested. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get the short name first. So we can do this by chart indicator name. And this should get us the short name, I think. Yes, returns the short name. So this function here gives us the name, and the name can be stored in a string variable. So string, again, is the data type. It's not an integer data type, but string data types can hold text values. And in this case, we want to get the name. So this will be a text value. So this chart indicator name function will return a string. This is what you can also see in the so-called signature of a function. And here we again have to specify the chart ID, then the sub window and the index. Index means like if you have multiple indicators in your list pretty much, the first indicator will be index 0, the second one will be 1, the third one will be 2, and so on and so on. This is the indexing. So in this case, we will just use index 0 because we want to get the whole, right? So let's also print the name in the print statement here. And now we can also use this short name here, of course, to get the indicator handle. So if you write it like this, we now get the name of the indicator handle, which is Hull moving average 100, LWMA. So I think it is what is suggested here if we move our mouse cursor over the indicator. But yeah, anyways, if you do not find the name or the short name of your indicator, you can also always use the chart indicator name function. So we can now use this variable, or we could also go ahead and type here whole moving average, blah, 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 100, 200, 100, 200, whatever this was. But here, since we have it stored in the variable anyways, we will do it like this. And you can always do it like this. So this is what we did. And maybe we can print something here. Function found indicator, and then we will print the name and created the handle, and then we will just print the handle. The handle is usually just the value 10, because what the handle is in the background of this like programming, it's just the handle will store all the information about the specific indicator. So we can later on use this handle now in the onTick function to get the values from this specific indicator. So far the code in our onInit function is already fine and functioning. So we get the short name of any indicator, and again, this doesn't only work with the hull, we can, or the whole moving average, we can also go to the sub window, and if we compile the program now, you can see we now find the RSI. So you can see this works pretty much for every single indicator. In this case, we were not able to get it because in this case, of course, we would also have to go to the sub window 1 if we want to get the correct handle for this. But yeah, if we do it like this, it also works for the RSI. So you can see you can address any indicator with this mechanism. And then, yeah, we'll just store the handle in our handle variable, because in the onTick function now, we will use another function, which is the copy buffer function. And this copy buffer function it will copy a specific amount of values from the buffer or the storage of this indicator. And if you move your cursor slowly over the different bars in the chart, you can see in your data window, which you can open by clicking on View Data Window, here you can see the whole moving average and also the RSI. Like every indicator has a value for every single bar in the chart. So if we copy values from the buffer of this indicator, we will have access to these values here. And this is exactly what we need. So we will use this copy buffer function to get the values from a specific indicator which is defined in the handle. So we just have to pass this handle here as a first parameter for the copy buffer function. Then we will have to choose the buffer number. And this is again an index. And for example, if the indicator only has one buffer, it's usually buffer 0. If there are multiple buffers, for example, for the Bollinger Bands that have multiple lines, it's buffer 0, 1, and 2 usually. But yeah, this is how you can work with the buffers. In this case, we will just use 0. You can also use main line, but yeah, maybe it's easier to use 0 here. And then we have a starting position. Starting position means, as I said, every single bar has its own value. So we will have to tell the copy buffer function what specific values we want to get. And this is why the starting position is requested. We can now, for example, say we want to start at index 0, which would be the current bar, or index 1, or index 2, or index 3, or index 4. And let's go with index 1, which means we start at the last bar in the chart from the right side. So not the current, but the last. And then we have to define the count. Let's say we want to get 2 values, which means now our copy buffer function will get this value and this value for the whole moving average, which is currently in the chart. And yeah, we can see now the last parameter is a requested double array. And this sounds a little bit complex, I know, but we will explain this, or I will explain this quickly now. We can create this array like this. So we know this procedure already. It's pretty much the declaration of a variable. By saying that it is a double variable, we say that we want to store price values inside of it. So values that have a decimal point, like this. These are all double values. And prices, if we have a look at the right side of the chart, they usually have a decimal point. So we need a double array for this. And then, like, array is just the name. We could use Peter, we could use dog, we could use cat, and Mary, of course. So you can use any name. I will go with R, which is not a pirate term of, or not a pirate word, but it's for array, my short form. And then these squared brackets, that's the right word, these squared brackets indicate that it's an array. Like if I do it like this, it's a normal double variable. But if I add these squared brackets, it's now an array. And we can use this array as a last parameter, and if we compile, everything's good, there are no problems. So what does this array mean? It means that since we want to store multiple values, for example, here we said we wanted to store 2 values, we cannot use a simple normal variable. but instead we can use an array, which means that we can store multiple values in this array, and we can address these values using the index for the specific value in the array. Like if we store 2 values inside of this array, we have index 0 and we have index 1. We have these 2 indexes or indices since we store 2 values inside of this array. If we would store 5, we would have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So always start counting at 0 for these arrays, and then, yeah, it depends on the size of the array. But if we compile the program like this, and please note that we put all of this code in the onTick function. This means that it is processed by the program on a tick in the chart. So whenever there is any price move, which is a tick, it will now print these values. So let us now check if these are the values for the last 2 bars. And we can compare the values to the values in the data window. So we should see 143 0.850, which is the rounded second value. And then we should also see this one here, which is 143.836, which is the first value in the experts tab here. So you can see this indeed working, and we now have access to these values of this indicator. And as I said, and I will also title this video like this, you can use this for any indicator. So let's go back to sub window 1 here, and now if we compile this, we don't get the value for the whole moving average, but we get the value for the RSI. And isn't this cool? Like, you can do this with any chart indicator you can imagine. So let's get rid of this print statement because it's a little bit annoying to see the values always. So what will we do with these values now? Now we can add the code for the trailing stop loss. And for example, if we have positions in our chart, and let's make sure that we will have some positions in our chart now. Let's say we want to open 1, 2, and maybe also some other position sizes, and also a sell position. Let's say we have 4 positions in our chart. The challenge that we now have is we have to check all of these 4 positions, and we have to check if we can and if we should modify the stop loss. So what we want to do is we want to create a so-called loop. The loop will be a for loop. And for loops usually look like this. You write for, which is just like the keyword, so the computer knows it's a for loop. And then in round brackets, we have a initialization. It's usually, you will often see something like this, like int I is equal to 0. Like in 99% of all for loops, this will be like the first statement in the round brackets of the for loop. Then you have the so-called main condition, which in this case will be I is smaller than positions total. Like this. And this is our main condition. I will explain this in a second. And then we have the statement that is executed after every iteration of the loop. And here we will write I is equal to I plus 1. Then you end the round brackets with a closing round bracket, and then you add curly brackets for the body of the for loop. So what does this mean? So when every single tick happens, it will first of all get the values for the indicator, then the program will check, oh, there's a for loop. So the first thing the computer will do is process this code here, like before the first semicolon. And it will create an integer variable that is only alive for as long as the for loop is processed. So it will create an integer variable with the name I, and the value will be 0 at the beginning. Then we check the part in between of these 2 semicolons, which is the main condition. So this will be checked next. So the program will check if I is smaller than, this is a comparison operator, the return value of positions total. And positions total, you can read it in the reference. If you go to help, mql5 reference, you can see it just returns the number of open positions. And this is why I created multiple positions in our account here. So let me explain what the positions total function is doing right now. Like for example, in the current account, I have 4 positions open. So positions total would return 4. So since we check if I, which is 0, is smaller than 4, this condition is true. So after checking the condition, we will process the body of the for loop. So we will do whatever is written here. This will be processed. So here we will paste our code for processing the trailing stop. And after we did this, we will do whatever is written after the second semicolon. So literally we will just increase the value in I with 1, or we will just add 1 to the value. Sometimes you see something like this in some source code that you find in the internet. This is exactly the same. So this is the same as saying I is equal to I plus 1. It just increases the value in the I variable by 1. And after we did this, we will check the condition again. And this is why it's called a loop, because we will do this over and over again until the condition is no longer true. So in the body of the for loop, what we want to do now is we want to say, for example, let's print I. So we will see what happens. So you can see we will now print 0, 1, 2, 3 with every single tick, because we are just looping through this loop until I is equal position total. So of course we do not just want to print I, but we want to get a position ticket, and we can do so by using the position get ticket function. And this is again a predefined function, and it requests a position index, and this index will be I, because all of the positions have an index. The first position always is index 0, second one is 1, 2, 3. So you can see in programming we often have this mechanism working like with indices or index values, and this happens especially with mql5 programming a lot. So we will just go through the positions and select every position by using the ticket or the index. And you can see in the reference again, this position get ticket function, it will return an unsigned long value. So if this function is called, it will do something, and we don't have to know exactly what is going on in the background, but we know in the end it will give us an unsigned long position ticket number. So we can store this in the unsigned long position ticket variable that I just created. What unsigned long is, it's pretty much an integer value, but it can be really big. And it's always positive, because this U means unsigned, so there's no minus in front of it. So you use long values if you possibly have to store a really big number, because integer variables are limited at some points and long values can be even bigger. And unsigned long just means it is always positive. And yeah, as you know, position tickets are always positive. Okay, also the position get ticket function, it does something else. It will also select a position to work with it using the position get double, get integer, and get string function. So we can now use these three functions, and we will do this because first of all, what we want to do is we want to check if position get string, and then we can use position symbol here as a identifier. And you can always see the list of possible identifiers if you open the round brackets after calling the position get whatever function. So this will give us the position symbol of the currently selected position. And we can now check this with this comparison operator and check if it's equal to underscore symbol. And underscore symbol is a variable that always holds the name of the current chart symbol. For example, here it would be euro, US dollar. So we check if the selected position has the same symbol as the chart, because we only want to process it if it's the same symbol as in the chart, because we don't want the program running in USD Japanese yen process the GBP US dollar values, because it doesn't make sense, because the whole moving average would have different values. So once we did this, we could also check the magic number and everything, but I won't cover this in this video. So we will just check if we selected a position of the current symbol. And in this case, next we have to check if it is a buy or a sell position. So we will get position get integer. And again, you can see all the possible options, and we will get the position type. And the position type can be position type buy or position type sell. Position type can be position type sell. Also, you might be confused what these if statements are. If statements are really easy. You just write if, and then in round brackets, there's one condition. You usually use comparison operators to build a condition where you compare two values. That's like the typical use case. And only if this condition in the round brackets is true, then you enter the body in the curly brackets. And you can also put some more if statements in the body of other if statements. So you can check multiple conditions. And this is also why we move the source code or the lines a little bit to the right if we enter a more narrow scope here. So for example, inside of this if statement is all of this. This is why it's moved a little bit to the right. So this makes sense and it's easy to read if we have a look at it. So here we are just checking if it's a buy or a sell position. Because if it is a buy position, we can now, first of all, before we go there, we go here and we say the stop loss should be array at index 1, which will be the value for the whole moving average at the last bar. Also, we want to make sure to normalize double this, because as we printed this before, you can see there are just far too many positions after the decimal point. And this is why we'll have to round it. So let's say normalize double, and we will get the SL value and round it to the precision of digits. So the normalized double function, it will just take any double value and round it to a specific precision. So for example, we choose underscore digits here because this will always give us the digits after the decimal point for the current chart symbol. So for example, here it would be 3 for euro US dollar, which means that every value here that we use the normalized double function on, it will be rounded to 3 digits after the decimal point. So now we have our SL value calculated, and now we can check if, let's also get some more information here. Let's get the position stop loss, and we can do so by using position get double, position stop loss, and let's also get the TP because we will use it later on. Position get double, position TP. And you can see we can use these position get double, position get integer, and position get string functions. We can use all of them because we selected a position with this position get ticket function. So after we use position get ticket and it was successful, then we can use all of these functions here, and they will always be used on the currently selected position. So now what we want to check for our buy positions, if the new stop loss here, if it is greater than the position stop loss. And in this case, we want to modify the position. So to modify a position, the easiest way is go to the very top of your program, write #include, and then a smaller than, and then you write trade/trade.mqh, like this, and compile. You can also write it with capital letters, it doesn't really matter. And then, now, since we did this, we can go here and create a so-called trade or C-trade object. What does this mean? This goes a little bit into the topic of object-oriented programming, which I won't cover here in this video, which means that we can create an object variable. So it's pretty much just the declaration of a variable, but the type is a class. And yeah, I know this is really complex, but I made a video about this on the channel. Look it up. Just search for object-oriented programming, René Balke on YouTube, and you will find it. So for this video, we just need to know that if we add this line and this line, and also this line, like this line, and also this line, we can now use this trade object variable to modify positions. So let's go here and let's say trade position modify, and now you can see we just have to provide a position ticket, a stop loss, and here we will use the new stop loss, which is stored in the stop loss variable, and the old take profit, which is in the position take profit variable. And if we compile this, you can now see our positions should be modified by the program automatically. And you can see this is in fact working. But yeah, it is working, but the stop loss is, I can show you where the stop loss is located right now. It is at level 54, whatever. Because we are still using the RSI right now as an indicator, and this of course doesn't make sense. So what we want to do is, we want to go here again and we want to say, let's get the indicator from the main window. because this will get us the whole moving average. So if we compile this again, you can now see the stop loss is now at the last bar value of the whole moving average. And this is great, isn't it? And also, if there's a new bar in the future, it will then automatically switch to the next bar if the value is higher. Also, you can see the sell order is not modified. And this is because the sell stop loss cannot be modified. Because we didn't add the code for this. So let's do this quickly. So let's say if SL is smaller than position stop loss, or position stop loss is equal to 0. You always have to check this too. Oh, and then also we will have to check something else. Position stop loss. Yeah, we have to check one more thing. But first of all, let's add this trade position modifier. This will be the completely the same. So if we compile it like this, it should now theoretically adjust the sell position. But you can see there's a invalid stops warning. This is because the stop loss that would have been used, and you can see it just modified the stop loss of the buy positions. But for sell positions, it doesn't work because the stop loss would be below the current price. So we will have to check for this first. So what we want to do actually is we want to check if stop loss is greater than symbol info double underscore symbol ask, because this will give us the current ask price of the chart. And if we do it like this and compile again, the error will no longer be displayed here, because now we check if it's even possible to modify the stop loss. So of course we should also do this for the buy positions. So stop loss is smaller than symbol info double symbol bit, like this. And then let's move everything inside of the body to the right. And now everything should be set up. Also, if you're wondering, right, we are also checking here if position stop loss is equal to 0. This is for sell positions. So we are checking if the new stop loss is below the old position stop loss, but it could also be the case that there is no stop loss at all. Like for example here for a position. In this case, the position stop loss will be 0. And of course, so the whole moving average, which is now stored in the stop loss variable, will not be smaller than 0. So we are also checking if the position stop loss is currently 0, because in this case we also want to modify it. And you can combine multiple conditions with this OR operator, which means that only this or this has to be true. Yeah, but like this, everything is working just fine, and you can now use this mechanism with any indicator in the chart. So you could do this with a super trend indicator, you could do this with a normal moving average, with an exponential, with any indicator pretty much that draws lines that you can find in the marketplace. And you can of course also use other buffer numbers, just change the source code accordingly. Also, what I also want to show you is how we can react to actual changes in the indicator and then close our positions immediately. This is what I also want to do. So what we can do here is, when we loop through our positions and when we, for example, find a buy position or a sell position, we could also go ahead and check if array, like the indicator value at index 1, is greater than the indicator value at index 0, which means for the whole moving average, for example, that it is currently blue. In this case, or let's check if it is red, because in this case we want to close buy positions, right? So we say trade position close, and then just provide the position ticket, and this will close buy positions for you. Of course, in this case, we don't want to close the buy positions because our whole moving average is blue. So let's check for sell positions if we have to close them. So for sell positions, we want to check if array at index 1 is smaller or is greater than array at index 0. So in this case, we want to close sell positions. So if we go like this, position close, it will now close the position as soon as we compile. So you can see here the position is closed because the whole moving average is currently blue and it's heading upwards. So you can see you can use your chart indicator for all types of operations now. So you can check whatever you want for your currently selected chart indicator, and then you can react accordingly. So for example, you can close positions, you can modify positions, and this is how you can easily do it with just 50 lines of code. We don't even need the OND in it. Some people say you should call the indicator release function here in the OND init, but yeah, it won't really make a huge impact on your program. So this is what you can add, but you don't really have to. And yeah, this is how you can use this simple program to work with indicators. So let's say, for example, if I create another sell position, it will of course be closed on the next tick because the whole moving average is still heading into the second direction. Also, like if you are working with closing positions, it makes sense to adjust the for loop a little bit. So instead of writing it like this, you should write it like this. Positions total -1 is the initialization now, and as long as I is greater or equals 0, you want to do something, and after every run, you just decrease I by 1. So essentially, you're just going from 3 downwards if you have 4 open positions. This is just if you close positions, because if you, for example, close a position, it will change the indexing of the positions. This is why this is recommended if you use position close functions in your loop. But if you do it like this and compile, everything's fine, sell positions are closed if the whole moving average is facing upwards. And for example, if I switch to another time frame, now this will close the buy positions also, because in this time frame now, the whole moving average is going downwards. So yeah, this is pretty much how you can use any chart indicator and create some logic on top of it, for example, a trading stop loss or closing positions. And again, if you want to learn how to use any chart indicator to open positions, watch the video that I already linked at the beginning of this tutorial. So I hope that you liked this small tutorial. Let me know what you think in the comments and what else I should have a look at for programming tutorials on this channel. As always, thanks for watching. Keep up the good work. Programming is not a one-day task, but it's a journey. You can only become better, but you have to start at some point. So I'm glad that you did this today. All the best for you and for your trading. Thanks. Have a great time. Good trades. Bye-bye.